On this episode of Booked on Rock, Grammy-nominated rock and soul guitarist Jon Butcher. We talk about his emergence from the Boston music scene in the 80s, being the only black guitar player on MTV at one time, his favorite rock and roll books, and will he write a book of his own one day? All that coming up next. Everybody, welcome back to Booked on Rock. Great to have you back. I'm Eric Senich. We are back with another chapter in the dialogue series. It's been a while since we had one of these episodes. Chill and chat with authors, fellow podcasters, musicians, and more. And our guest is Grammy-nominated rock and soul guitarist Jon Butcher. He's one of a select handful of influential recording artists who emerged from the legendary Boston music scene back in the 80s. Jon, who also was recently inducted into the New England Music Hall of Fame, has enjoyed a 5-decade-long career marked by major worldwide tours, MTV videos, eclectic radio releases, collaborations with other major artists, and incendiary live performances that continue to this day. He's got a brand new album out now. It's titled Nothing But Soul. It's classic R&B-inflected Roots Rock. It is on fire. I was just listening to it as we started recording. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Jon is here to talk about his music and the new album and, of course, his love of rock and roll books. So welcome to the podcast, Jon.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this all week, Eric. So there you go.
This is awesome. Well, according to your online bio, you are from Philadelphia. Tell us about your origins and what led you down the path of music.
I started playing guitar early, man. I started at 5 years old. My family has pictures of me in a cowboy suit and a guitar. I couldn't decide which it was going to be, cowboy or a rock guitar player. Anyway, the last one won out. And I guess what started me playing was there used to be these short movies. They're called shorts. Roy Rogers and other singing cowboys. And that's what interested me in the guitar. Of course, it wasn't long after that I discovered Jimi Hendrix, and then the die was cast.
So you moved to the Boston area when?
To go to school. I came to Boston like a lot of guys did to go to college. You know, my parents wanted me to have something to fall back on in case the music didn't work out. So I went to Boston to go to a communication school for broadcast journalism, Graham Junior College. And ironically, at the same time as I was there, Johnny A was there. So our paths were sort of converging from the very beginning. And that led to me staying in Boston. That college experience opened me up to the city. And it was a treasure trove for a young guy like me.
You were part of that scene in the 80s, the Boston music scene. What was that like?
I can't even really put words to it. The only comparison I'd make is the scene in London in the 60s. That music scene was electric because there was all of this fresh energy coming from every direction. And that's what Boston was like. You know, being in the same town with the Jay Giles Band and Aerosmith and on, I mean, I don't know where to stop. It fostered great players and exciting performances. I give all the credit to Boston and WBCN.
We had a guest on recently, Gary Shea from the band New England.
I know Gary.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a small world. Yeah. And he's from my hometown here in Southington. So we were talking about, he was in Boston in the 70s and talking about the scene at the time as well. What about the musicians and the bands who influenced you? You talked about Hendrix, but I'm also reading you're a big fan of Otis Rush and Freddie King and Wilson Pickett, Sly Stone. You could hear it in the music.
All of those people, all of those guys had an equal stake in making me want to be a player for real. All of those guys. The first time I heard Otis Rush about blew my mind because it was exciting. It wasn't laid back. It was on top of the notes. And it had a profound effect on me, as Jimi Hendrix did. It's just that, you know, he wasn't the only one. You'd mentioned Sly Stone. There would be no Prince, period, without Sly Stone. There just would not have been one. His influence is felt in so many ways, and I wanted to pay homage to that in my new album.
You toured with the Jay Giles Band, right?
That was my big break.
Yeah.
That was what put me on the map. Dude, we got a call. Me and my bass player, Chris Martin, lived in this really awful apartment in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Freezing and hungry. The phone rang. And it was somebody from the Giles Band asking us if we wanted to open up for Giles at the Boston Garden. Well, I checked my calendar for about 2 seconds. There was nothing in it. I said, of course we do. We did those three shows opening up for Giles at the Boston Garden and never looked back.
And Jay Giles, underrated guitarist,
I think
although
so.
he's well respected, but
Yeah, no. He was underrated because his allegiance to real blues and blues chronology. That guy's was a walking encyclopedia. So I give him a lot of credit for bringing forth the early influences that came out in the Jay Giles band.
when did the Jon Butcher Axis band form?
I was in this popular band in the late 70s in Boston. We were tearing it up, called Johanna Wild. And that broke up as bands do. And so I was wondering, well, what am I going to do next? And me and the drummer decided, well, let's try a quartet, four guys. No, let's try three guys. And it was just that sort of accidental. And one thing led to another. And before you know it, we were selling out all the venues in New England everywhere, all the time.
You signed with Capitol Records
We signed with Polydor Records first.
first, okay.
Yeah, the first two records were on Polydor. And then we switched to Capitol. And I did a few records for Capitol. And that was a great experience because I got to travel the world. I got to go to Capitol Studios in Hollywood, California, where Nat King Cole and Frank Sinatra recorded. And there I am in Studio A for the first time, this young guy going, holy crap, I have died and gone to heaven.
Yeah, that's part of the question I was going to ask about how much of a whirlwind that was for you because you're touring with Rush, Def Leppard, Scorpions, In Excess. You talked about Jay Giles' band. You had singles, successful singles like Life Takes a Life, The Ritual, which was nominated for a Best Rock Instrumental Grammy, The Sounds of Your Voice, and Stop. Life Takes a Life received airtime on MTV in '83, which I want to ask you more about later. But yeah, what was that like? I mean, that whole period, because I always hear artists when they talk about when you're young and it's just all happening so fast. It's just like a whirlwind.
You know what? I don't know what it's like now to try and make it and come up through the ranks and get noticed and play. I can't imagine how difficult it is, even with the internet, the World Wide Web. And the reason why is because when we were coming up, there was no web. So people had to go out to see to see bands. They had to get off the sofa and go see us live if they wanted to see us at all. Well, for a guy like me, I was built for that. It was so exciting for me and so eye-opening, and I met so many people. I don't know what to say about my experience other than it was just unique.
But you do have to be built for life on the road.
It was hard. You know what? I'll be honest with you. Here's the hard part. The hard part isn't the playing. The hard part isn't the what, 45 minutes or an hour you spend on stage. That's the fun part. The hard part is sleeping on the bus or not showering for a couple of days or not being able to check into the hotel for 48 hours or not being able to get clean socks or catching a cold and getting stuck on the bus. All that stuff tears you down physically. I think that's why a lot of guys who toured like that, Aerosmith, they're a great example of the road tearing them up. That's what happened. They just got beat up. And of course, then drugs come along because you feel like crap, right? You don't want to feel that way, and you're going to go on stage in 40 minutes. So that's how those things happen. My experience, fortunately, bypassed the drug part and just focused on the music. And we tried to stay as healthy as we could.
And the more successful you are, the more they're going to want you on the road.
Yes, yeah.
So,
But the key, you know what? It's like pro sports. You got to stay healthy. You have to stay healthy. If you're not healthy, sooner or later, stuff catches up to you. And that's when bad things happen.
of the bands that you supported, which fan base responded the best? And was there a fan base that was the hardest to win over when you played?
Man, what a great question. I'll start with the last part first. We opened up for Rush. Now, Rush is they're legendary. Everyone knows that they're a legendary band. And so the good news is, you're going to have a full house. But the bad news is Rush fans don't want to know from the opening act. No, they don't. They want Rush. And so the first night we opened up for them, ladies and gentlemen, the Jon Butcher Axis. and the lights go up, and it wasn't Rush. And for just a few seconds, you could see this stunned face, like, you know, who's that guy? He's, huh? So I'm thinking, oh man, they're gonna kill us, right? They're gonna throw shit, and it's gonna be bad. So what I did was I went, okay, we're gonna go for broke. And I'm playing with one hand and I'm throwing it around here, around the back. And long story short, after that 24 minutes on stage, we had them. But I killed myself doing it because Rush fans want Rush. They don't want the opening act. So that was the hardest. Now, the most fun, easily Def Leppard. We went
Really?
on tour. Yeah, oh, check it out. We went on tour with them during Pyromania. And that was one of their big records. And I wasn't that familiar when we started the tour. I wasn't a big fan. But those guys, now you have to remember, I'm a young man with what I'm about to say next. Those guys had so many girls at their shows that when the house lights went down, it was like Beatlemania. And they loved having an opening act. So I mean, they throw the guitar around her one hand, the other hand, no hands. And they loved us. And not only that, the band loved us. So they let us play longer. Then they let us play longer. Then they gave us all the lighting on the stage because famously, headlining bands hold back some of the lighting and some of the sound.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
not these guys. Long story short, after 40 dates, we're sleeping in each other's hotel rooms and crashing out and having fun and going out to dinner. And it was one of the most fun tours I ever did.
Wow. How cool is that? I'm a huge Def
Yeah.
Leppard fan, so that's just great to hear.
Oh, it was, and to this day, when I see Phil, it's like family.
Wow. Yeah. And you see in interviews how down to earth and just a good guy, good dude.
They really are like that.
And they're fans of music too. That's what I love. Joe Elliott will talk about how much he loves all these bands that inspired him. He goes from rock star to fan himself. He just loves talking about it.
So the music still lives in them, and that's the important part. How to have how to have a long career. Here's how. You got to like what you're doing. In fact, you got to love what you're doing because that's what you're committing to. You're not committing to the money because that can change. You're not committing to any accoutrements, that are associated with rock lifestyle because those certainly change. The only commitment is to the music. And if you can do that, I'm good for another 20 years.
Yeah, I've always now having followed music for so long, there are certain artists who I've seen play in front of 10,000, but play in front of 1,000, and they're putting as much into it on the smaller crowds than they were in the bigger. It didn't matter.
I
They
do that
loved it.
myself.
Yeah,
I,
total
I, I,
pros.
I love it. There's
I'll
something
tell you
about,
who, David Lee Roth was one. When
oh
in the
yeah,
mid 90s,
yeah,
when he was playing smaller clubs,
yeah.
he would still put it all out there, man. I mean, he wasn't just, phoning it in saying, pay me and
Man, I
let's go to the
really
next gig.
liked him. That was I don't want to get sidetracked, but that was my favorite iteration of Van Halen. It was my favorite. I think it was a lot of people's favorite. Nothing against Sammy, but that era of Van Halen was fresh and ferocious. And you could tell they all had unity. They were all brothers in that time. And I really liked that.
Now let's talk about your solo work, because after Axis, you then have some solo albums that are successful as well. 1987's Wishes, 1989's Pictures from the Front, and then you formed Barefoot Servants in 94. Where did that name come from, by the way? I love that name.
There's a Jimi Hendrix song called All Along the
Oh, of
Watchtower.
course. Yeah.
And Barefoot Servants, too. Anyway, we like the name. It was me, Ben Schultz, Ray Brinker, and the man, Leland Sklar.
Oh,
If
yeah.
I died tonight, having worked and lived and bled with Lee Sklar is one of my major accomplishments. One of the best players walking the earth, period, full stop. And one of the nicest guys I've ever met.
How did you meet him? How did you team up with him? How did that all happen?
I'm not exactly sure. I think my songwriting partner in the band, Ben Schultz, somehow had met Lee. I don't know how exactly, but he said Ben and I were doing demos of the first record, and they sounded pretty good. So somehow we got a demo to Lee. You never know. We didn't expect anything. I mean, the guy was at that time touring with Phil Collins, right? So
Well, that's what he's most famously for. You'll
Yeah.
see him in those videos. He's the guy with the long beard.
Yeah. So he gets back to us and says, when can I come by the studio? Yeah. So one day Lee Sklar comes down to our studio in Los Angeles and we started jamming and boom. He asked if he could join.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I mean, Warren
Huh?
Zevon, Phil Collins, Toto, Jackson Brown, James Taylor. I mean, the guy.
I don't know where that list starts and ends. There's so many artists that he's played with, and everybody feels the same about this guy. Everybody loves him. Everybody. Everybody admires his work ethic and his personality. It's so much nicer to be in a band with guys you like and admire. There's no substitute for it, really.
Yeah, did you always get along well with your bandmates? Did you have any difficulties? Because I get life on the road. Everybody's all up in each other's
No,
face a lot, right?
me and Chris Martin, the original bass player for Axis, we're best friends to this day. And no, I've always gotten along pretty well with the guys I was in bands with. I think that was important to me, and so maybe that filtered through, and it was important to them too.
Tell me about this production company, the state of the art recording studio, you call it Electric Factory. This you launched in the 90s, I believe.
Yeah, back in the days where when my studio was completely analog, big tape machines, 2-inch tape machines.
I wish every album was still recorded on analog. You could tell the difference.
I'll tell you what, we have I now do, I split my recording here in my house, in my basement. I have a home studio. And there's another studio at Gloucester, Massachusetts, where I live. And I go there to work with an engineer that I'm friends with. Bottom line is, I get to do all this music promotion essentially home and produce myself, which is what I wanted to do from the very beginning. That was my frustration with the first Axis record. I don't think it turned out like we knew it was supposed to be and how we sounded live. So now I have the luxury of recording, on my terms, in my style, at my behest, and I really enjoy that very much.
There's a studio in San Fernando Hills, California. Is that
No, no, I now live. Let me back up. I had the Electric Factory began the studio in California, in Silmar, California. I moved from the West Coast back to the East Coast in 2010. And so I kind of resurrected my studio again here.
is it still under the name Electric Factory?
Oh, yeah, that's the name of my business too.
You do not only work with recording artists, but a lot of television, film, computer, gaming projects are recorded there.
Yeah, I was lucky to have made some connections in the 90s with guys that do media music. And I had a really great run for a few years doing Star Trek. What was it? Ugly Betty? There was a TV series called Ugly Betty that we did, a bunch of shows. I can't even think of
Well,
them
I
all.
got some of them here. I just lifted them from Wikipedia. So if they're wrong, you tell me. But let's see, HBO series Deadwood, A&E's The Life and Times of Wild Bill Cody, The Hughleys from UPN, The Unit, CBS, Ugly Betty, ABC, Star Trek, The Next Generation, UPN, My Name is Earl, NBC, and Hendrix the Movie, Wood Harris.
Yeah, yeah, that was I don't know whether you saw that movie or not.
I
Uh, the
is
fun part for me
is that
was
the
doing
one with
Wood Harris played Jimmy.
okay,
Yeah,
got it.
the movie wasn't that good because they were blocked from using Jimmy's songs. Let that sink in.
Yeah.
The movie's about Jimi Hendrix, but there's not one originally penned Jimi Hendrix song in it. They couldn't get permission. So it was Wild Thing and she's a couple other covers, and it just wasn't that good. But I had my chance to play guitar as Jimi Hendrix in the movie, so that was cool.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the new album, Nothing But Soul, came out July 1st. So, what can fans expect to hear on this album?
Nothing But Soul is an accumulation, an aggregation of all the music I've done all my career, from Life Takes a Life to now. It also reflects all of the influences that went into making me who I was. And I thought to myself, I don't know how many records I have ahead of me at this point, but if I were to pass away I'd feel good about this being my last record. That was my goal. I wanted to make a record that really I felt secure and intentful. I knew I had reached, I said what I wanted to say, I played what I wanted to play, and I thought this was the best extrapolation of what I did.
12 tracks altogether. My favorites, My Blue Sky, Jam, the title track. There's some cool stuff too. There's some sound elements like what's the one that has it opens with the sound of it's the police cars and
Oh, yeah. Arrested, no
Arrested No
charge.
Charge is another great one.
There's a lot of social commentary, just like Life Takes a Life was. There's a lot of social commentary in my music. What I don't like to do is soapbox it, and be obviously political. I don't like that. It's not cool with fans, and it narrows the amount of people who can hear you. But I have a point of view, and so those points of view come through those songs. I think Nothing But Soul says more about me over my lifetime than any of my other records have.
And people can get it. It's on Spotify. People can get it all the usual places.
All of the places that you download music, it's there right now. And if you go to my website, jonbutcher.com, we have hard copies for those who still have CD players. I'll have vinyl in another month because that's my thing now. I collect vinyl. And so we're going to put this out on vinyl. But you can find Nothing But Soul everywhere that you download music right now.
You're on fire on guitar, you're on vocals, but talk about the rest of the band. Who else are we hearing on these tracks?
A lot of this record is me. I played bass.
Wow.
Yeah, I played a lot of the keyboards, although I did have some help. A wonderful singer-songwriter by the name of Chris Pierce helped me with vocals, so you hear his voice on it. Debbie Holiday, a terrific singer in Los Angeles, you hear her voice on it. Renee Dupree, you hear her voice. Sandy Mack is playing some B3 for me, but a lot of the stuff, a lot of the piano, bass, guitar, and some drums too, I did myself.
And you're going to go out on tour to support the album?
Oh yeah, we're setting up dates now. And I figure we'll go into rehearsal sometime in late summer, early fall. And I can't wait to actually get back to the Southwest. I haven't been to Oklahoma and Texas and New Mexico in a long time. So I'm looking forward to seeing the United States again and seeing our fans who have stayed with me for so many years.
And who's going to be on the road with you? Who's the band?
I am putting a new band together. Right now it's under wraps because it's going to be I'm going to make it's a big splash.
Okay.
I can't talk about that yet, but hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about it again.
But people just follow you on your website, social media.
JonButcher.com is the best way. Of course, I'm at all social media. I'm easy to find. There's just not that many Jon Butchers.
There are many out there. It's the one and only Jon Butcher. Let's talk about some of the books on rock that you've read. I always love asking these questions. Books that you've read, want to read, want to see written. So let's get into it. Books on rock you've read. Right now you're reading Life by Keith Richards. This book came out in 2010. It has since sold over 1 million copies.
I want to talk about
I mean, for books, that is very rare.
I can tell you why. Unlike a lot of guys, Keith said what was real. He said it. A lot of the things that he says and has said, people take issue with. But the guy's outspoken, and who, if not him, has earned the right at a little truthiness? He talks about the Stones, he talks about his relationship with Mick, and he gives insight into what a crazy ride the Rolling Stones were from the start till now. The fact that they're still doing it now says everything that needs to be said about that guy, Keith Richards.
What do you think would have happened if, because we know in the mid 80s, Keith did some solo stuff and Mick did some solo stuff, if either one of those careers really took off? Like if Mick had a career like Phil Collins selling millions of albums, would we ever have seen the Stones again?
What you're suggesting, in my opinion, is impossible. Here's why. We all know Mick did his solo records. We all know, and they were good.
They're good.
And we all know Keith did solo records, and a couple of those are great.
I love them.
But the truth is, neither of them could eclipse the shadow that the Rolling Stones cast on rock. Neither of them. Impossible. It can't happen because that shadow is large everywhere no matter where you go.
And they realized that too. By the end of the 80s,
Yeah.
they realized they needed each other.
And they worked through bad stuff. You know what I mean? I would love to meet Keith Richards. I really would. Because if he's not an OG, I don't know who is.
He is amazing. And from what I've heard, he's just a down to earth guy.
I would love to meet him. I hope I get a chance to sometime.
Somebody was telling me a story about they were on vacation somewhere, and this older gentleman with a dog comes walking up to them because this person had a dog, and
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, I love your dog there," and he had the English accent. He looks up, it's Keith Richards, and he just wanted to talk about regular stuff. He wasn't the total rock star attitude,
He's the
nothing.
coolest guy playing guitar as far as I'm living.
What is it about his style of playing that makes him so unique?
Oh, that's easy. It's stupidly simple. It's not complicated. So many guitar players have become sort of speed demons, one playing faster than the other. And that flurry of notes usually washes right over most people. They can't hear it. Keith Richards' simplicity as a player and finding licks we remember, playing licks you remember. They're in my DNA. Start me up. It's in everybody's DNA. That is a particular talent that very few guitar players have. Simplicity, economy, and licks you remember.
It's interesting that you say that because I remember somewhere reading about how lyrically he is exactly the same way. When he takes his lyrics, he really strips it down to the
The
basics, the
essence.
essential. The yes, yes.
Well, that has become the Stones formula. That's them. They take the simple thing and spin it in a way that's infectious, that you remember. If you can't tell, I'm a big fan.
Books you haven't read yet but plan on: Roomful of Mirrors, a biography of Jimi Hendrix by Charles R. Cross.
Yeah.
Also, Hendrix Setting the Record Straight by John McDermott and Eddie Kramer.
I haven't I want to read the John McDermott book. John McDermott is responsible for creating the Experience Hendrix tour. He is affiliated with the family, the Hendrix estate. And so I'm hoping that in that book are insights that you couldn't get from Google. And let me tell you, I was 15, 16 years old, and I heard Purple Haze. And it's hard to explain, especially in today, 2025, how a thing can like alter your DNA, alter it. Somehow I was changed. I was in my room. I had one of those record players that you open and you close the record and the needle was in the lid and you
Oh,
played the
yeah.
record like that, right? That's old school, dude. And I listened to that song, 50 times in a row, 60, trying to understand, woo boo, woo woo boo, trying to understand what I was hearing, and feedback. That inextricably changed me. And so there are many guitar players I admire and have learned from, Jeff Beck being one. But Jimmy created my path.
Dennis McNally, he was the Grateful Dead publicist for a while, but he's also an amazing author. And he wrote this great book recently about the San Francisco Haight-Ashbury scene. And he was talking about the concert in '67, Monterey.
Yeah.
And Jimmy was, unfortunately, if you handed him drugs, he would take it. So he was
Yeah.
really out of it. And there was somebody that had seen him backstage like minutes before he's going on, and he looked like, I think he described it as like a pile of laundry sitting there. Like there's no way he's gonna get up there. Like we're gonna have to figure some. He got up on stage and just killed it,
Yeah.
and that's, I guess, something you can speak to more as a musician. Like there's something that happens, I guess, when you hit the stage, no matter
There's
what
no
you're
doubt about
feeling.
it. It's a supercharge. Imagine before you go on stage, you have the most potent energy drink you've ever had, right? That when the house lights go down and you hear the first roar, zoom, you're shot full of adrenaline. And I think that's what Jimmy was playing on. Of course, the drugs killed him. But the fact is, that jolt that you get is hard to explain, but it's palpable. You can feel it.
What do you think he would have gone on to do?
I'm certain he would have ended up in some facet of jazz. I'm certain of it.
Right, that's what a lot of people have said.
Well, here's why. He was experimenting. At the end of his career, you began to hear experimentation. You began to hear him want to break out of Purple Haze, right? He didn't want to live there anymore. He wanted to experiment. Well, what happens when guitar players start seeking elsewhere and look and casting about and looking for other inspiration? Oftentimes it leads you to jazz.
All right, some other books that you want to read. They Can't Hide Us Anymore by Richie Havens. And also you have Joey Kramer's book, Hit Hard. Haven't read that one yet.
Everybody tells me that's a good book because Joe, well, as the drummer of Aerosmith, he was there from the very beginning. I mean, from day one. There he was in Brighton, Massachusetts, Cleveland Circle. And I would run into these guys in the street. I mean, literally doing laundry at the laundromat or the common market, a clothes store back then. And so you're walking the street like London. You're walking around and you're seeing these guys in real life. And it makes you feel like that you belong there, that you're part of this tapestry. So Joey Kramer's book is, as I understand it, a real insight into the Aerosmith dynamic. I'm really looking forward to reading it.
What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about Aerosmith's impact on rock history?
If they weren't the American Rolling Stones, then there is no such thing. Case closed. Tyler, in his early days when he was getting famous, a lot of guys would mention, the American Mick Jagger. I don't know if that's true, but I do know this. I can't think of another American band that had the same broad appeal to several generations, not just one, that Aerosmith had in their heyday. So I give them a lot of credit for making rock homespun. We didn't need to just look at the Rolling Stones in England. We had Aerosmith here in America.
You know what I thought was really cool, and I've heard this more often than not, grunge rock artists, grunge rock bands among the bands who inspired them, early Aerosmith,
That doesn't
which
surprise
is so cool. Yeah.
No, if you listen to their before all of the dude looks like a lady, before that, right?
Right.
They were basic and R&B and blues driven rock. And Tyler had a way of being the voice of that. I mean, a real distinctive voice. So it doesn't surprise me that their shadow is large.
Here's what I'd love to know, John. You can answer this as a singer. Stephen was just part of the Ozzy Osbourne tribute show. Sounded perfect.
I
Sounded
saw
great.
it. I
Now,
saw it. Yeah.
so yeah, is it just he could do a one-off show? Because obviously Aerosmith had to call it quits because they're saying that Steven Tyler had an injury to his vocal cords, his voice. But yet he's there singing great. Is it that he can't do an extended tour?
Well, that's one night,
Yeah.
2 nights, whatever it was. That is not 80 cities. And remember, I told you early on, it's not the gigs, just the gigs, but the traveling. Even if dude, if you're traveling first class, the best planes and the best cars and the best hotels, you're still traveling. You're living out of a suitcase, you're not at home. If you catch a cold, it's a problem. It's a bummer. Where's the closest drugstore? Can I get NyQuil? You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter how famous you are, the traveling kicks the stuff right out of you.
And so there's something with his voice. It's just not strong enough to withstand that
No,
anymore.
and God bless him. He he's only been doing it for 40 years or whatever it is.
Yeah, just to see him up there again, it's like, man, I miss Steven Tyler. Yeah.
He killed it.
Yes.
What does that tell you? That tell you that music still burns in his heart. That's what it says. He's not at home counting his bankroll. He wants to put it out there. Whether or not he's able physically to still do 80, 90, 110 cities is immaterial to me.
So what do you think he's doing? Does he? Because he can record. Then I'm sure he could record if he wanted to. He's got
If
to
he
be
wants to,
itching to do something,
I think he will. I do. You know, guys like that, they take a break, they get rested. Then they go out for a one-off like with Ozzy, and they go, "Geez, I remember this. This is pretty cool." So I expect to see one more thing from Steven.
Speaking of that, how about Ozzy? I thought Ozzy sounded great.
Yeah.
He was sitting. Everybody was concerned, like, what's going to happen? It's going to be a
Yeah.
disaster. But
No, he did great. It's the same thing. It's the same dynamic. These are guys, the guys we're talking about, David Lee Roth, Tyler, Ozzy, music burns in them. It's like a coal that's still burning. That ember is hot. And you got to do something with it. For me, it was making nothing but soul. That ember was burning. I had to do it. And Tyler had to do that Ozzy homage. He had to be there. I understand precisely how they feel.
well, let's finish with books on rock you'd like to see written. You'd like to see a book about black musicians in rock. You say, quote, what do Sister Rosetta Tharpe, Ben Harper, Ray White, Arthur Lee, Daryl Jones, Phil Lynott, Vernon Reid, and me all have in common? Black rock musicians, all indelible contributors into the book of rock, but not as well known as Jimmy, Prince, or Chuck Berry.
That's
I'd love to see a book on this as well, and I don't see why you should not be the guy to do it. Would you write a book one day?
I don't know. I'm not sure if I have the patience. I would sure like to. I would love to collaborate with somebody at some point, I think. Especially as my first time, a collaboration makes sense. But no, those artists that I mentioned, most people, I call it the People magazine people. They haven't heard those names. They don't know who those guys are. They know who Prince is because he was able to break outside of black rock musician into the mainstream. But that doesn't happen all the time. So yeah, I would love to see a book like that. And if I could be involved in it, I would love to.
Tell you, Arthur Lee, love. I finally had a chance within the last few years to really dive into their catalog.
It's eye-opening. You can see seeds. You know what I mean? You hear little beginnings of things that went in a direction. I love discovering music like that because there's gifts in it. There's discovery. Making the discovery of new music is the best gift ever. I just love it.
Yeah, Robert Plant was a huge fan of Arthur Lee.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that
for sure.
says it all. That says it all.
Yep.
You were getting airplay on MTV at a time when black artists were not getting much airplay at all. In fact, you're the only black rock guitar player on MTV at one time, correct?
Isn't that weird? It's so weird to think about it like that. My early record companies, when we started to take off, Axis, I don't think they knew what to do. I really don't. I don't think they knew exactly how to, you know, well, wait a minute, he's rock. Of course, there was Jimi Hendrix, but I don't think they knew what to do with me. Now, today the business has changed so fundamentally that it's fragmented into several niches. You know what I'm saying? But then it was still a conglomerate. There was corporate rock, there was corporate rock music video TV, and that's what it was. And so being there in those early days was interesting. I'll say it that way.
There's a famous clip of David Bowie criticizing MTV while being interviewed by MTV, saying you don't have enough black artists on. Because I think Michael Jackson was really the guy that became the first pop artist on MTV that really blew the doors open. But
Well, he blew doors open. No, you said it right there. No one opened the door for him. He blew them open, and that's what it took.
and Quincy also incorporating rock and roll elements into the album Thriller with Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah. You have an Eddie Van Halen play on Beat It did not hurt Michael Jackson.
All right, before we wrap this up, John, tell us again about the new album. Where can people get it? Where can people find you online?
Yeah, man. First of all, you can find me online easily at jonbutcher.com. That's my website. If you're at social media, type in your search box, Jon Butcher. I will almost certainly come up. And you can get the new album both at my website, hard copy. You can go to jonbutcher.com and we'll send you a hard copy, or you can download it at all the usual suspects.
And there is a link to the album in the show notes. People can go there, give it a listen. This is a kick-ass album. You're on fire. I keep saying that, but that's the first thought that comes to mind.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed I really enjoyed the chat. It was fun, great questions, and anytime you want to have me back, I'm ready.
Oh, absolutely. And I hope you come around my way, maybe on this tour. You come
I
around
would love to.
Connecticut. Yeah.
I'm sure I'll be down there. I'm sure of it.
All right. Cool. Jon, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on.